to Uncomfortable Conversations about Culture and Christianity. My name is Alex, and today I am joined by Karsten Williams. Some people in the world might know him as the Big Cat. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, Karsten, tell us just a little bit about yourself, who you are, just for our listeners that don't know you yet, and then I'll try to figure out how in the world you got that nickname.
Well, number one, thank you for having me on the podcast and, allowing me the opportunity to get uncomfortable and speak about my journey, which has been very uncomfortable. But I'm excited to share and hopefully impact the viewers here. And yeah, just, small town guy, grew up in a suburb of North Dallas in Texas here, and kind of stayed local for the last, I'd say, 40 years in the area. So I love just, being kind of a pillar in my community and knowing everybody and just living in this area. It's been great to kind of see the growth and being able to contribute and bring something back to the community after growing up in it for so many years. And so background in track and field, I ran hurdles in high school, 400 meter. So I was always very athletic and I was a big gamer as well. So those are kind of like my background, not too much of the gaming currently, but a lot of like the Ninja Warrior stuff is kind of like real life gaming. So I'm the character now. I get to play myself and go through and get the high score. But I'm having a lot of fun and just thankful for all the opportunities that have got me to this point.
Yeah. So you do have a nickname for those who watch the show or, have traveled and done clinics for kids, the Big Cat. Where in the world, how did you become the Big Cat? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So kind of two-part. It was during training, me and some guys that were training together in Dallas, in the Dallas area. As I was kind of going through the obstacles and whatnot, he was just like, all right, man, like, you're the Big Cat, like you're up next Big Cat. And I was like, where'd that come from? He's like, well, like, you're kind of like the main guy in Dallas, kind of started, the Dallas ninja scene. And I'm a bigger competitor than most on the show. I'm not huge. I'm 6'1" and like 170. But I'm also with the track. I'm very, well, at least I used to be. I still feel like I'm fast and agile like a cat. And so I'm going through the course. I'm moving pretty quick, like, not like the typical big man. So it's kind of being a leader in the space, in the community with ninja, and then also being a bigger competitor that's fast like a cat. I might feel like a cheetah. So that's where that all came from, kind of a merger of the two.
Cool. So you talked about doing track and things like that, and obviously you were a part of and have been a part of the American Ninja Warrior show, which I think is really why most people have a clue what in the world ninja is. I've learned, I was introduced to it through the TV show, and then since my kids have been doing it, learned that it's a way bigger world than just what the show projects. And actually some of the things are more difficult in the competitions than sometimes the show projects. But how did you get started in this? Like, how did you end up on the TV show? How did ninja become something on your radar from a kid that did track? Just let us know how this became interesting to you.
Yeah, I was always like an outdoors kind of kid, climbing trees, climbing on roofs and stuff like that. And I used to watch American Gladiator back in the day, and their last course was like an obstacle course. They had like the hand bike and stuff like that. So I always enjoyed watching that show. And then when Ninja Warrior would come on, I would always, if I caught it on TV, I'd watch it. That was a really cool show. It was cool seeing people of all walks of life attempt to take on these crazy obstacles. I guess at that time it wasn't so crazy, but now, looking back. But once I kind of saw a few episodes, there was just one day I was sitting there, I was like, man, like, I really want to compete. I love competing, push myself. And I was like, let me just see if I can try to see what it looks like to get on the show. Filled out something online, put my application in, had to film a video. At that time, it was 8 minutes long. I've never filmed a video before. Just called a buddy up. I was like, hey, man, meet me up at this park and this, between these buildings. I'm going to do some stuff. Just get the camera on. So we put something together. I thought it was really cheesy and corny. But I just put it in, not even thinking I had any shot at getting selected. But so about 30 days rolled by. I was like, okay, I guess, nothing's coming around, but didn't plan on it anyway. So no harm, no foul. And then about like 35 days later, they called me out the blue. I was a personal trainer at the time at a big gym in Dallas. And I got the call, missed the call actually. They got voicemail. I was in the middle of a training session with the client, but calling them back, they're like, hey, got great news. You got selected for Ninja Warrior. Congratulations. And I was kind of running around the gym, kind of like jumping around, screaming, I'm on Ninja Warrior. And everybody's looking at me crazy. Like, what's this guy doing? And that's what kind of started out and started the journey back in 2013, and kind of has gone up from there. Obviously with some downs in there as well, but definitely has gone up from there for sure.
So were you doing like training, specific towards American Ninja Warrior stuff, or are you just more like, hey, I know how to do kipping, pull-ups, and I can do dead hangs and all that kind of stuff for my training, or how did that begin?
Yes, there was no obstacle gyms in the area at that time. And so I was just kind of recreating stuff in the gym that I was working at. I was, doing the pull-ups and doing like muscle ups and using some of the Bosu balls for like balance obstacles and whatnot. And then I would drive around, look at different places where I could like, let me see if I can climb that, and it was kind of like Ninja Warrior-ish. And so that's how I was kind of training, just kind of piecing it together and somewhat relying on my athletic ability, thinking that would just kind of push me forward. And that's kind of how it all started in the first year. So no training really for the obstacles on that first season of the show. The second time around, I did have some training by traveling to Houston. There was a gym out there. I met those competitors on my first season. And so they kind of introduced me to some gyms to go check out.
Cool. So I'm sure, your definition or what you defined as success has evolved over time. I think everybody's has. But before jumping on a show and people kind of knowing who you were from that space, what were you like, personal trainer? What were you just deciding, this is what a successful life is going to look like as you're dreaming and imagining it for yourself?
Yeah, definitely at that time, I enjoyed training, helping people get in better shape. I really loved that, but I definitely felt like there was something else out there for me. I didn't know what that was at the time, but I was like, man, like I really want to do something great and have a bigger impact. My mom was a teacher for over 20 years and she impacted so many kids, elementary age. And I was like, man, I just really feel like there's something there for me that is a bigger purpose. And at some point I'll find that. And then when Ninja Warrior came around, I thought that kind of in the back of my head was like, oh, this is my opportunity to like make an impact. I'll be able to be on TV and like be in front of a lot of people. And so that kind of was that little kind of voice in the back of my mind that was like, hey, this is the thing for you to pursue and go after. And that was kind of the start of it.
Yeah. And so how has your definition of success evolved over time? As you had good runs and not so great runs, like how are you redefining in Karsten Williams' life what success looks like?
Yeah, that's a great question, because early on when I first got into the show, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do great. I'm gonna be successful. I'm gonna do this. And it was complete opposite of that. Like I fell in the very first obstacle. It was a quick, like 3-second run. That was it. And so success at that time, I felt like a failure at that time. And I've seen success before with whether it was track and other things I pursued athletic wise. And so success is having winning moments. And if I can win moments, that is success. I just need to build on that. And so that's evolved over time for sure, because the Ninja Warrior career has been a lot of ups and downs, and kind of having that other eye on me with millions of people watching. I've really had to rethink my really just outlook on success and what that definition is. And so that definitely has changed over time and evolved into something more kind of, more meaningful and impactful, versus it maybe started out as personal success. And now it's more of creating opportunities for other people to succeed.
That's cool. So obviously the show's given, a platform. You mentioned millions of eyes watching you, and how have you used that platform just in everyday life or your faith? How have you just seen that platform, give you opportunities that other people don't have?
Yeah, it's been great. I've always been really just grateful for that opportunity. And so really it started out when kids were coming up like, hey, I saw you on the show, man. That's really cool. I want to do what you do. And I was like, wow, that's cool, man. And so it is, anytime I did speak to someone, I would try to speak some encouragement into them. Like, hey, you can do anything you want. Like, I'm nobody special. I just went out and tried something, and things just started happening for me. And, you can do that too. And, if you want, I can help you with that as well. I can help train you or whatever the case may be. And so if that was in person, those were those kind of conversations. And if it was like online, people reaching out, thanking me or, supporting me, I was like, hey, thank you for that support. Hey, but whatever you're thinking about, go out there and get after and try it too. Cause you'll be surprised in what you can really accomplish just by stepping out on faith and just trusting yourself, believing in yourself, having some faith, and that will serve you well and take you far.
Yeah, that's so cool. So in a world that is just dominated by performance, right? Like people that are watching the show, you fall in the first obstacle, they don't really care about you. They want to see the people that are moving on in the next. And so in this world, especially ninja, that, you know, your performance matters. It's just you. It's you out there against, you know, the rig, against the obstacles. How do you stay rooted in your purpose, whether you've had a great day or a poor day? How do you just stay rooted in, you know, who you're called to be and the purpose that you feel like you have in your life?
Yeah, that's something that I guess I could say I battled with a little bit early on, because I had those high expectations, and then, you know, I had some, you know, some setbacks, and I saw other people that came in like after me, and almost like Daniel Gill, he came in after and then just like exploded from out the gate. And so you start comparing, and, you know, like, man, like, okay, why is he having all this success, or this person having that success, and why not me? And so those are some things I had to work through earlier on in my career on Ninja Warrior. And through those experiences, I learned that it's, you know, more about the journey and really how you persevere and go through the obstacles on the course, off the course, and really how you respond to those setbacks or whatever the case may be, failures, really grows you as a person and a character. And so I saw a lot of internal growth through those experiences. And I'm actually very thankful that those things happened, because it helped mold me into the man I am today, to be able to, one, be resilient, and to be able to kind of really spread that message to the youth, especially. And then number two, it just really helped me really lead with humility, and then just know that, hey, this is a journey. You know, I might have an end goal in mind, but, you know, just being open to letting God take me in a different direction and on a different timeline that I had in mind. And so I'm grateful for all of that. And, you know, I wish I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. And especially that early failure in my career, I think that was probably the best thing that could happen to me, to really set me up for the future in ninja, and also in business and everything else in life.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that next. I think of my life, and I've grown the most in the painful places, in the places where I've experienced suffering or experienced a script that was not written at all the way I would have done it. And in fact, most of the places I've grown the most, if you would have asked me, like, hey, this is what the script is going to be, I would have rejected it, you know, but I've had to go through, you know, some of those moments of difficulty and pain and loss. And on the other side of it, you see growth. And so is there like a moment where you're like, failure shaped me so much more than any success could have shaped me in the sport or in life in general?
Oh, man, yeah, you said that was a word right there, man. Like, you made a good point saying if you saw the script beforehand, you might look at that like, man, I don't know if I want that, you know? Yeah. And, but it's one of those things, like, you don't need to know the script, just know that there is a story being written. And, you know, really, because that's where I see now, kind of where I'm pursuing now, you know, bigger and better things. You really have to have tough skin and a lot of faith and belief in yourself and in a higher power, that there's something else at work. And so having those failures early on, those obstacles, those are the biggest things that shape you. And like when you train, you know, you go into a gym, you push the weights, it hurts, you're sore, it doesn't feel great, but you need that to get stronger. And then as you get stronger, you're like, okay, I can handle more now. And so it's a progression that really prepares you to tackle bigger things that you may or may not have in mind. And so I'm a big believer on, you know, getting the training, you know, the journey, and just knowing that if I just keep doing these things, I'm going to be prepared for whatever else is going to come in my way. You know, if it's a failure, I know how to respond to it. Hey, it's just a step in the right direction, or an opportunity to move forward. And so that's how I view things now, you know, from a physical standpoint, mental standpoint, and a, you know, spiritual standpoint. I think you need to be strong and train those areas you know, every day.
Yeah. Let's talk about mindset just for a second, because, you know, I watch my son, he's 12 right now, and he's got his good days, and then he's got his days that he, you know, it's like, that's the easiest obstacle on the course. I fell on it or whatever. What are the things that you wish, you know, if you're speaking to, and you're coaching, I know you coach some younger competitors, what are the things you're trying to get across to them about mindset, just outside of all the physical stuff, but just having their mind right or ready for a competition, or, you know, the days between a competition, how to flush, you know, a bad performance and set up for a new one? about why mindset is important and maybe some advice you would give to young ninjas about how to shape a good mindset.
Yeah, that's a great question as well. And especially with the young athletes out there, they want to see things quick. They want to see, success early on, and maybe they have success early on, and then they have some bad, some course runs or competitions, and they don't know how to really manage that. And so me and my coaching team really tried to kind of preach early on. It's like, hey, like things are going to go rough, but you just have to, number one, don't ever doubt yourself. If you have a bad run, it's a bad run, but don't let that experience, that moment kind of deter you from what is the next opportunity. Because if you take that into your next competition, it's going to affect you. And so big on visualization and belief in yourself. Like, hey, at the end of the day, like, trust that you can do this. If you're here right now, like having an opportunity to get on this obstacle, do this competition, you're there for a reason, and make the most of that. And so it's really about make the most of it out of every opportunity. Make sure you keep a positive mindset at all costs. And then also really see if you can do something to either celebrate others. Someone beat you out on a course or competition, like, hey, you want to celebrate them because you would want someone to celebrate you. And by doing that, that feeds your inner kind of it feeds your spirit and just keeps you humble. And then other people will think good on you when your name comes up. I always want people that if my name comes up in a closed room or when I'm not there, I want people to say, like, hey, that Karsten, like, hey, that guy's he's solid. He's an encourager. He's positive. And so we really try to preach that to our kids, and also make sure that we're leading by example. So when they do see me on the show or wherever, they're seeing that, okay, yeah, he's actually living that out. Obviously not perfect. I have my bad days, but overall, just like, hey, you'll have another opportunity. You have a bad run, you have another opportunity, and just make sure that you take, and also make the most of that experience in that moment.
Yeah. How do you not let your failure define, I failed at an obstacle or failed in a competition, but that doesn't mean I'm a failure. Like, how do you help them understand that? Or what are some words that you'll give to pick someone up and understand, okay, me failing at something doesn't define who I am as a person. What are some of the thoughts you have there?
Yeah. It's easy to, especially if it's like an easy obstacle, like you mentioned, I missed that easy obstacle. I suck. I'm a failure. Like, no, you just missed that. You just missed the mark right there. It's like, hey, that's just an opportunity to learn more about yourself. Whether it's how maybe you need to fall on that easy obstacle to learn some humility. Like, what's the lesson in that loss or whatnot? And so it's really just an opportunity for that student or that individual to learn something new about themselves. Hey, maybe expose the weakness that, hey, maybe you're not consistent. Okay, I need to work on being consistent, or I wasn't really locked in before that run. So like there's always other layers you can peel back off of that. It's not really that, oh, that was just the easy obstacle I missed. Okay, well, why did you miss the easy obstacle? There's always something else to kind of unpack behind that. That is an opportunity for you to get better. And not to say that won't happen again. That's just a part of life. Just like in any like school, you're going to miss answers on a test. Nobody's ever 100%. But, you can be good most of the time. And every time you're going to learn something from that test. We're always, I think, required to be tested so that we just learn more about ourselves. And I think it's almost like a puzzle. We don't fully know about ourselves until we go through other experiences that force us to take a deeper look inside. And so I think those are so important. And so we really just I try to encourage people to look at those and find the good in it, because if you just have success and, wins all the time, you will go off the deep end once you have that big failure. And I'd rather you not go off the deep end and have some losses along the way. So that way, if you do have a big loss, at some point in the future, you're prepared to, learn from it and keep moving forward and be able to really take your experience and share that with others. Cause I can't do it all. Like, I need my kids to go out there and be an extension of myself. And so that's what we really, really, really try to drive home to our young athletes.
Yeah. And thinking of that, trying to do it all and being an extension, I think one of the things, especially in just humanity, but in our cultures, like we have this desire for independence that like once I achieve independence or once I can get it done on my own, whether it's losing weight, yes, of course it's you versus the obstacles, or yes, of course, if I want to lose 20 pounds, at the end of the day, it's on my diet, my exercise, me following up with the programs. And so sometimes we can fall into the illusion that to be mature or to be grown means we are more independent. But I've found in my own life and in my faith that actually the more I realize my life is about dependence, it's ultimately about dependence on God, but dependence on other people. And so in a sport that's very much, about independence on one end of, hey, it's you versus the clock. It's not you against other people. It's just that. How do you drive home? Also, the reality is that we deeply need to rely on others. There's times where, in my life, I just burn out because I'm trying to get it done on my own, and I'm too proud to lean into others or too proud to be wanting to bother other people. So I think oftentimes real growth depends deeply on a reliance on other people. So how do you learn that lesson? Or are there times in your life where you've found out only through community you were able to turn something that you were burning out into breakthrough? Maybe you're like, Daniel was way better than me, or this new guy came on the scene, and you could have just become insular and, okay, this is all about Karsten versus the world, or taking in more coaching and growth. And so how would you speak to somebody, especially in a sport or in training, where it's an individual accolades, but you need to have community as a part of that, if that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's we live in a society where everything's like, oh, I'm self-made. I did this on my own, and like, yeah, we have to rely on ourselves to make the steps and have discipline and put the work in. But at some point, you're gonna burn out. That battery is gonna get low, and if you're not like really grounded in whether it's like faith or have a community to support you, then you have nothing else to draw on when you've drawn everything out. And so like my mom has been huge. Like when I had my first failure, she was like, hey, like I was kind of in my feelings. I was like, man, maybe I'm not cut out for this. And she was like, no, son, like like that's part of the process. If you really think that you want to pursue this, you need to get back out there, try it again. And so she spoke that life into me. And then I had, my buddies, great group of friends that like, hey man, like that's, you missed a shot. You just gotta get back out there and like, hey, you're built for this, man. Like, you train, like you're ready. And so like all those things like remind you of kind of like who you are, because the people that you surround yourself with, they know you. And so, if those are good relationships, they can pour into you when you're all poured out. And so that was huge for me. And that's like on my branded like Ninja Warrior stuff. And I say it's Team Karsten. And so that's just a reminder to me that like I have a big support system that like I wouldn't be able to do any of this without my support system, my kids that are cheering for me, my parents, my friends. And so like if I win on the course, that's a win for my team that has been supporting me and been behind me over the years. And so like, and through that, I'm just always reminded that, hey, it's an individual sport, but with team support and that are behind you that want you to win. And I want to win for them. And so that's why I kind of take it off myself when I'm on the course. Yes, it's personal. I want to overcome that obstacle, but really I'm trying to make a win for those people that are watching me. And so if I can win for them, then they can go out there and win as well. And that's my approach to competition or success is that like, if I take it off my shoulders and focus on that team, that support system that's right there, I could do much better because I'm really leaning on their energy as well to persevere.
You're a busy guy. I mean, training for the show, obviously you do other competitions. I've, watched you commentating on competitions on other people. You've got your coaching that you're doing, Team Karsten, you're going to places. How do you, in a life that's just driven, by growing and helping other people and having goals that you want to attain, what does rest look like for you? Like, how do you realize I need rest, and what does rest look like for you?
That's probably a big challenge. Actually, is I feel like I always need to be like everywhere all the time and then do all the things, and that's one area that I could get better at. Like, either you stay up pretty late, and sleep is probably on average like 6 hours. They say it's like 8 is ideal, 7 or 8. Usually I'm like 5 or 6, and so. And easy with what I do with front-facing, people-facing stuff in front of a lot of kids. I'm on the show. I'm commentating. It's a lot of stuff we have to be on in engaging. And so when I'm not doing that, I try to just take a lot of alone time, rest, like just kind of like have nobody around and just kind of like be by myself, kind of just settle in my thoughts and just reflect on things. And so those are things that really help me get the rest and rest my mind, and so that way I can be mentally sharp and ready when I do have those opportunities and make the most of those. But that's definitely something that I need to work on a little bit better at. And trying to work out. And this is when I work out, like I'm there kind of in my own zone and, just trying to it's me and me focusing on me, and so, but rest is super important. You got to rest your mind. Otherwise, you will kind of, start glitching, if you don't get the right, nutrition and rest. All those things play a big factor. And so far I've been pretty good. And as far as like being able to manage that, but could be a little bit better. But rest is super important. Got to rest that mind and body so you can be prepared to take on the day ahead of you.
Yeah. And I appreciate the humility of, of mentioning, hey, it's something I got to grow in, because we all have things in our lives we have to continue to grow in. Who inspires you, like outside of Ninja, outside of, the world of American Ninja Warrior? Who are some people that inspire you?
So I have, some online and offline. Obviously my mom has been huge for me. And I'm blessed to have, a loving mother. My dad has always been like he's been my sport guy. He like, hey man, like go out there, be tough, go get him, Tiger. And then, my stepdad, who's very involved in my life as well. He's kind of more my spiritual guide. He's a pastor and he is always speaking life into me. So, but then online, I do watch a lot of podcasts and like YouTube and some guys out there, Myron Golden, Miles Monroe, that I really just try to always keep in my ear because they're always speaking. They usually merge, if it's God and business, and everything's about just, your outlook on life, keeping God first, and just knowing that, hey, there's a greater purpose for you, and make sure you're going after that because God you're here for a reason. And I want to make sure that I'm, at the end of the day, that I'm doing what is going to please God and serve the people around me. And so those are the kind of the online, offline people that I are inspired by, and just anybody that goes out there and is getting after it, that didn't have like everything given to them, that just worked for it, or maybe it was the person you didn't think was gonna. Usually, sometimes it's the kids too. Like about the kids that like, hey, they came in, didn't have all the tools, and they just put the work in, and like just seeing someone make something out of nothing is also very inspiring as well.
That's so cool. So if you had to give a TED talk, they called you up like, Karsten, you're giving a TED talk, but you cannot mention Ninja at all, and it's about just your life and what you're passionate about and inspiring people. What would the concept be?
Let's see. I would say it's, I've always like, I try to keep myself grounded and humble. And so I'll say that the title of the talk would be Nobody That Turned Into Somebody. And I feel like that would resonate with a lot of people, because a lot of people out there, I think that they don't have the value, or they're not as important as somebody else. But obviously, like, I value myself and respect myself. And but I feel like I went down the path less traveled, but I had a mindset to win, and I expected greatness, and I believed in myself. And so I was able to make something because of those things. And that was nothing that you could receive from anybody else. Those are things I just created for I created my own narrative. And so anybody can do that. And so that's why I say nobody to somebody would be my TED talk.
That's cool. All right. Get that book deal, or your next TED talk. So when it's all said and done, and I mean, you're a young guy, so I'm not trying to ask you to write, your eulogy or anything like that. But when it's all said and done, you're like, hey, I'm working towards something, I'm working towards a legacy that people are like, this is who Karsten Williams was. What are your hopes that people say about you? You were talking about that earlier, like when I'm not in the room, there's things I hope that people say about me, that they notice about me when I am in the room or when they do have interactions with me. So for you, what does that look like? What's that legacy that you're hoping that you're working towards leaving in your life?
That I made an impact, that I made a difference in someone's life. Like, Like my whole goal, like with what I'm trying to build right now, is I want to create a space where people can have that platform. I've been given a platform, so I'm trying to create that platform for others so they can make a difference. And so I want to be known as a difference maker, an overcomer, and an encourager. And so if that legacy, I can leave that behind, that is going to really shape the landscape of a lot of people that can go out there and do what I did and make real change in this world and leave it better than when they got there. And so those are the things I would say that if I was on the tombstone or whatever it is, that's what I want that to show is impact, difference maker, encourager, and just made a difference in someone's life.
That's cool. So as the show, and the sport of ninja continues to evolve. I didn't know anything about it till my son went to a birthday party, outside of the show. And, last year we went to Worlds and you're like, this is crazy. Like, and there's people here that are really good I've never seen on the show. And, obviously the show is, it's driven by entertainment and all those kinds of things. And so they want people to watch it, and viewers matter and that kind of stuff. But as the sport continues to evolve, every competition I go to, my kids' coaches are like, what is that obstacle? Who thought about that? Why are there skateboards everywhere now? Like all this kind of stuff, it continues to evolve. What are some of the things that you're like, man, I hope as it continues to grow in popularity and more people are doing it, that's a win. But what are the things that you don't want it to lose in its explosion as it continues to grow?
Yeah, I definitely want it to always feel like it's accessible. The show is great because it's really cool. It's grandiose, and you can see everything looks so cool under the lights. But a lot of people see that as like, okay, well, that person can do it. Like, I'll never be able to do that. And so our job is like when we open gyms and stuff like that, is to say, hey, like, no, the show is the kind of the highlight reel of it. That gets it. That's the cool factor. But if you come into a facility, there's ways you can scale this down for anybody, and create, make sure that it's accessible for everyone of all ages and abilities. And then I want it to always keep that like community aspect where like, yeah, it's individual sport, but it's the two competitors, the two top guys, they're both still kind of rooting for each other. They both want it, but they want it if they can just bring their best performance, not because the other person just gooped up on something. Like, I want to bring my best. I want to bring their best. So keep the competition, the competitive spirit there, but also keep that community and that camaraderie there as well. That really Ninja was built on. And really, that's what most people say. Like, I think the truly unique thing about it is that camaraderie and that community that it had its foundations in. And the last thing is just that, like, keep the obstacles, like, don't get too crazy. Like you said, like the skateboard, some are cool with that. Just make sure the obstacles look like because these are athletes that train really hard. That's like Ninja Warrior athletes. Obstacle athletes are some of the best, most well-rounded athletes out there. And so let's keep showcasing the athletic ability, and let's not let the obstacles get too gimmicky where it looks like a cartoon in a sense. Because these guys train hard, they put the blood, sweat, and tears into this stuff, and so let's make sure it looks like it's cool, it's exciting, explosive, but not too like cartoonish or gimmicky.
Yeah, that'll be a fun thing because every competition I go to, you're like, who in the world came up with that? And hoping no one dies trying it. One of the things I'd love to just know, you've talked about, some of the things that you're trying to build and some of the coaching and things like that you're doing. I just love to hear, like, what are some of the current passion projects you're working on, outside of the show and building gyms and helping create this legacy. Talk to us about some of those things and how people can get involved or learn about them, whether it's the chalk company or whatever. Share any of those things that you want to share with us. Shamelessly plug right now.
Yeah, I got my whole goal is to push the sport forward, create access, make this thing bigger, as big as it can be. And so with that, I do try to get involved with a lot of different things. My first and foremost is Ninja Project, that the company that I founded. We have a mobile course business for epic events that we bring out to communities. And our goal and plan is to have a huge megaplex facility that involves ninja entertainment and everything else under the sun. Also, we have the True Chalk. That's a really cool thing to support the sport as well, keep people on these obstacles and not flipping off. Neighborhood Ninjas is another great nonprofit that I'm affiliated with, and we're doing some great stuff with building playgrounds all over the country to create access for families and adults to stay fit. And USA Ninja is the big organization that's pushing this sport towards the Olympic level, and really trying to help that grow and stay involved and make sure I'm pouring into that organization there as well. And then my True Momentum, those are like our Dallas, our competitive team. And, look, those kids have been with us for a long time. And so we really want to keep pushing the ball forward with their training and create opportunities for them to, pursue their ninja pursuits to the highest level. And I just love, I love building. I love creating. And so anytime I can do that and kind of like leave my footprint on something or handprint, if it's chalk, then I want to be involved with that. So, but yeah, Ninja Project, that's my baby there. I really want that to be a huge blessing to all that are able to experience it.
That's so cool. So what's the projection on the Olympics, on this actually getting to the Olympics?
So I believe as a standalone event, which more likely will be like a racing, like the head-to-head racing concept that has been introduced. I'd say 2032 is, I think, quite very possible for that. In the 2028 games, it'll be along with four other disciplines in the pentathlon. But it will be that head-to-head racing concept. And so that's kind of the intro to the Olympics. And then soon after, I think with the next Olympics after that should be a standalone sport. Because I think everybody wants it. It's a cool sport. It's fun to watch these days. You want to be entertained, and this Ninja is the coolest thing out there, especially if it's a full out sprint, going to the buzzer with some of the crazy these athletes out here that are pushing it to levels that we never thought could be pushed to. So, but I really think that by 2032, it's very possible.
That'd be so cool. Yeah, one of the things that I was just so impressed with last year when we did go to Anaheim and to Worlds was, when I was a kid, I didn't play ninja. I didn't do ninja. It wasn't really too much of a thing. And, I played a lot of team sports, and I think of, the best people that were out there, and there's no chance I'm ever going to meet them. And if I got to meet them, there's no chance they're ever going to talk to me or anything like that. And it was just so cool to be in that community. You're just in a convention center with the best of the best, with people that have been on the TV show, people that are competing, but just the humility of, I went and I heard you speak at one of the events, Warriors on Mission, and just you sharing your story along with a lot of other ninjas. And for me, as a dad of a 11-year-old at the time, it was just such a cool gift, for there not to be people with a bunch of egos around there or some security guards keeping them away, or, kids would walk up to people and you're just normal, kind, cordial, encouraging people that had the time for people. And I think in a world where, celebrity kind of creates these new statuses or keeps people out or shoves people away, that was one of the endearing things for me about, like, okay, bud, yeah, let's keep pursuing this. This is worth it. You keep training, and this community is awesome. And there seems to be a huge community of faith within the ninja community. And so it was just such an encouragement, for me to listen to your story, for you to jump on here, and even the small world of Lewis, who runs Midwest Ninja Academy here, where my kids go, just shooting you a text, and you're like, yeah, man, I'd love to be on it. It's just so cool to have that kind of a community where people have each other's backs, and it's not just about creating a bigger brand or name for myself, but pushing it forward. And so just as a parent, of a kid that loves this and will never try it myself, don't want to break myself.
Not yet.
I'm grateful for the work that you've put in and the ways that you're pushing that sport forward and being humble and leading, out of that kind of way, not try to just create a bigger name for Karsten, but using that platform that God's given you and that Ninja's given you to leave it better than you found it. And that's really cool. So
thank you for that, man. Yeah, it's been fun, and definitely the impact is I'm seeing it take place. I want to keep on putting fire behind it and see other people flourish in the sport and make more of a difference out there. And it's been fun. I'm enjoying every minute of it for sure.
Cool. Any last things you want to make sure you add or we didn't get to before signing off?
Yeah. So, in my, faith journey, like during some hard times, I was always looking at like scripture to like speak to my situation and whatnot. And so one of my like favorite, verses is, Joshua 1:9, and it really just kind of keeps me motivated to keep on pushing through, knowing that I don't know what the next turn is going to look like. But, he says, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, because the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And so knowing that, I feel empowered to like take on, I feel like David out here going against Goliath, so I feel like nothing can stop me if God's on my side, and I'm doing it for the right reasons. And so, if that's, the thing that I can leave with people is, just go out there and be that David. Anybody can do it. And usually the people that don't look the part. And so, but I'm excited to see where this sport goes and keep growing in, my faith journey, and hopefully impact others to get closer to God. But yeah, I'd really enjoyed being on this podcast, with the getting uncomfortable, and I think we need more conversations like this, and keep doing the great work as well. And it's I'll definitely be on again if you ever wanted to do a round 2.
Sounds good. Yeah, I love that, that Joshua 1:9 verse, because especially people, you're like, okay, that looks good on a t-shirt or in Hobby Lobby, and yeah, I should be strong and courageous. But I mean, what they were facing was these dudes just went into a place and it was filled with giants. And they're like, we got this little tiny army, and you said we're going to go beat those guys. That's impossible. It's impossible. And then, God commanded them, be strong and courageous, and to take heart, knowing there's no way. Like, the odds are stacked against us. There's no way we get this done unless we stand strong in who God is in our faith, and we take courage, and with God on our side, like David, like you mentioned as well, then we can get the impossible done. And so cool. So cool. I'll sign off for our listeners here, and then we can chat just for another second. But hey, thanks again for listening to the podcast. We're grateful for all those who take time to listen. As always, you can find us at CCCOMA Podcast on Instagram, TikTok. You can email us with any comments, suggestions, podcast at cccomaha.org. But until next time, we'll talk to you then.